Hi, my name is Noah Pappenfuss, and this is my capstone project presentation on Voyageurs National Park and the effect of toxic algae blooms. Within this presentation, I'll be discussing the park's geology as well as the effect of toxic algae blooms that appear within Kabetogama Lake. Voyageurs National Park is located near the town of International Falls here in Minnesota. It lies just on the Minnesota-Canada border within spitting distance to our neighbors to the north. It covers an area of 218,200 acres, or roughly 341 square miles. Nearly 40% of the park is made up of a web of interconnected, glacially carved waterways that provide a multitude of activities, from fishing and swimming to boat tours and canoeing. The majority of the park can only be accessed by boat, which is located on the Kabetogama Peninsula. Approximately 2.7 billion years ago, ancient volcanic rock began to rise up out of the ocean and form the Superior Craton, which is a large block of crust that covers northern Minnesota, all of Quebec and Ontario, and part of Manitoba in Canada. The Superior Craton would later become part of the Canadian Shield, which is a large area of Precambrian rock dating back roughly between 2 and 3 billion years ago. This ancient rock was folded, faulted, and compressed under a lot of pressure. North America also experienced rifting at this time, where the magma from the asthenosphere rises and separates the lithosphere. The continent was splitting apart, all the way from the lower peninsula of Michigan through Duluth and down to Kansas, but stopped partway through. Had the rifting continued, North America would be 2 separate continents. That massive rift is part of the mid-continent rifting system that tried and failed to split the continent in half. Lake Superior is in the middle of the rift valley that was formed when the continent was pulled apart. Volcanic rock that rose up and formed an ancient volcanic mountain range deposited layer upon layer of ash, of volcanic ash and lava, which created a mix of both igneous and metamorphic rock that runs throughout the park. Metamorphic schist and gneisses are found at Rainy and Kabetogama Lakes in the west end of the park, and igneous granite can be found at Namakan and Sandpoint Lakes on the east end of the park. This ancient Precambrian rock was exposed around 10,000 years ago when the last glacial period ended. A lateral strike slip fault exposed a gold vein within a northeast trending greenstone belt inside that Precambrian rock. This led to the area experiencing a short-lived gold rush in the 1890s. Eventually, those people settled there, and their descendants now call the area home. This most recent glacial period is called the Pleistocene Epoch Ice Age, which only ended 10,000 years ago compared to the ending of the Precambrian period around 540 million years ago. A few geologic features are present within the park from this glacial period. Some of the glacial geologic features include the continuous chains of lakes caused by the recession of the glaciers, glacial striations, and glacial erratics. Glacial striations are caused by the recession of glaciers and are evidenced by parallel lines or scratches that show the direction of glacier movement. These scratches are caused by quartz grains dragging along the hard frozen bedrock and create these mesmerizing patterns. Glacial erratics are deposited by glaciers, sometimes hundreds of miles from where they originated from, and can range from as small as a pebble to as big as a car. Terminal moraines can also be found on the southern end of the park. A terminal moraine is a buildup of sediment and debris at the end of a glacier, marking its advancing direction. Then the sediment remains as the glacier recedes. This is kind of like when you take your foot and push it through dirt or sand, and then take it away. From these advancing glaciers, outwash plains within the park are common as well. Outwash plains are ground-up sediment deposited by the melting glacier as it passes over the land. These are just a few of the many things to do and see while at Voyageurs National Park. And on to part 2. A big problem that plagues Voyageurs National Park is toxic algae blooms that occur within Kabetogama Lake. These blooms occur every year at the lake in late summer. The blue-green algae are cyanobacteria, a type of bacteria that thrives in warm water, high in nutrients, and are often accompanied by a swampy odor. While there are other types of algae blooms that aren't harmful to humans and animals, You can't tell just by looking at them, and it is safer to avoid any swimming in or around these blooms. You must also avoid boating, tubing, or water skiing in algae-laden water, as any water particles inhaled can also cause illness. Symptoms include diarrhea, vomiting, headache, rash, eye irritation, coughing, and a sore throat. Animals, especially dogs, are susceptible to sickness as well. If you or any of your pets come in contact with algae bloom water, rinse off with fresh water immediately. If there is any evidence that an algae bloom was recently in the area, characterized by green scum on the shoreline, it is safer to leave because these toxins can persist within the water. These algae blooms are important to address because several lakes, including Cabo da Gama Lake, have already had algae blooms resulting in a few dog deaths and human illness cases. This alga can also, if left untreated, cause a permanent change to the ecosystem. These blue-green algae blooms take away oxygen in an aquatic ecosystem, suffocating the fish and other aquatic life. Phytoplankton work on the opposite spectrum of microscopic aquatic inhabitants. They raise the level of oxygen within the bodies of water. They use light to perform photosynthesis to gain energy. Phytoplankton also thrives on nutrients as well as light, so it is a fighting battle to maintain a balance of both phytoplankton and these cyanobacteria. Voyageurs National Park tries to combat cyanobacteria in Cabo da Gama Lake by reducing the amount of man-made products that make their way into the lake that is rich in phosphorus and nitrogen, such as lawn fertilizer, feedlots, and any runoff water originating from cities. This comes at the cost of a reduction of phytoplankton and a drop in oxygen for the lake, as well as an increase in cyanobacteria. Some other methods that can be used that Voyageurs National Park has not tried yet are chemical control, aeration, mixing, and ultrasound. Chemical control uses algicides in the water to help destroy the algae. While it is effective in killing off the algae blooms, it requires multiple treatments and destroys the algae cells, which releases all the toxins into the water, which still linger. The blooms may be gone, but the aquatic life still suffers for a long time afterward. Aeration is putting more dissolved oxygen into the environment to help decompose dead plant matter. It doesn't use any chemicals and is environmentally friendly, but is costly and requires a large amount of energy. It also isn't always efficient, as it never kills the algae directly. Mixing involves the circulation of water to break up the stratification of layers. As the water is circulated, it kicks up minerals such as iron and manganese from the surface layers that make it easy for algae to grow and stops this process. Bodies of water even do this naturally throughout the year. This isn't harmful to the environment and can be used in deeper reservoirs, but again is also brought down by mechanical costs from equipment and have fluctuating results, sometimes even increasing the amount of available nutrients for algae to grow. Ultrasound uses sound waves to create a sound layer in the top layer of water. Algae have gas vesicles that control buoyancy and depth. Ultrasounds affect algae buoyancy, and then the algae sink and die from lack of light for photosynthesis. This technology has been proven to work for many years and can be used on large lakes, and is also environmentally friendly and doesn't harm any animal or plant life. But the downside is that the entire lake must be covered in these ultrasound buoys and must treat the affected area for a minimum amount of time for it to be effective. Depending on how bad these algae blooms get, many cities, counties, and towns are also willing to consider closing off specific parts of a beach or whole beaches. Or they are going to post advisory signs for potential algae in the areas. But with what other solutions I have looked at, I think ultrasound is the way to go forward. It's environmentally friendly and doesn't harm wildlife, and I don't think they're too expensive either, at least not compared to the other solutions. Yeah, we may have to tolerate some weird-looking buoys on Cabo da Gama and other lakes, but it's a nice compromise to having a complete ecosystem collapse. I loved researching this national park, and I hope I one day get to visit it myself. Thanks for watching.